Hello everybody, this is Catholic Dad, episode number 81, Impulsive Empathy. I don't know if everybody knows what impulsive empathy is, or actually delayed empathy too. Impulsive empathy is something that mommies give to babies. And so, and this is a really important stage or a really important trait to have when you care for the weakest of the little ones. And the reason why is because infants are so weak and gentle and tender that you can never spoil them. And so whenever they complain, you have to immediately assess their needs and give them empathetic love. And so that's called impulsive empathy. It's what mommies do, because mommies are hardwired to care for infants. And a lot of mommies' psychology is hardwired with infant psychology because they are essentially one in terms of the evolutionary scale. That mommies' whole lives are tied up with their infants. And so therefore, impulsive empathy, like if a baby cries, you go to it immediately. If it's cold, you warm it. If it's warm, you make it cooler, and you're constantly caring and caring and caring for the child. And so that's really important for the development of young babies and their survival. But as you get older, impulsive empathy can actually lead to psychopathology. And so as kids grow up and they get older and older and older, and they become stronger and more robust, they don't need impulsive empathy anymore. What they do need is something called delayed empathy or potential empathy. And this is something that dads tend to do, is that the kid is looks for affirmation, or is like falls down, skins his knee or something like that, and the dad says, "Get up, move along, let's keep going, you're not dead." Or, "You could do better than that, let's move." And so what the father empathizes with is the potential of the child. And he tends not to empathize in the now, in the present time, unless, of course, there's something that's of a grave concern, like a broken limb with like a bone sticking out or something like that. Then fathers do give empathy then. But for little minor scratches and bruises or slight or hurt feelings, the father always imagines how strong the child could be and empathizes with that. "Toughen up, we got to move along," you might hear a father say. Then the mommy, she will, because she's tied with the psychology of her children and an infant, mothers tend to have impulsive empathy throughout childhood, even into young adulthood. And so here's the irony of the whole thing. Who teaches a young person who grows into a young adult to be empathetic? Is it the mother or is it the child? And actually, if you step back and think about it, the father actually teaches more empathy than the mother does in terms of empathy towards the rest of the world. Because let's think about if you get impulsive empathy your entire life, what do you end up thinking? You end up thinking that all my concerns are valid, all my concerns are at the forefront, all my concerns need to be addressed immediately. That may be true when you're an infant, but it's certainly not true when you're an adult. What does your father teach you? Your father teaches you, toughen up, stop complaining, you're not the most important thing in the world. There's other people and other problems that are more important than you. And so this is why, by the way, children do much better when they have a mother and a father around. Because let's imagine if you just had a mother around, and this is kind of today's world, a lot of fathers are absentee, aren't they? Then a child grows up with impulsive empathy. And so they're constantly being fed that they're important, that they need to preserve themselves, that all their concerns are real, that when they complain, somebody should address it, and that they need empathy from the rest of the world, meaning that they're the most important thing in the world. That's how you get narcissists. When you have chronic, unmitigating, impulsive empathy directed towards a child throughout their entire young adulthood into their adulthood, then you end up with a narcissist who thinks they're the most important person on the planet. If you think you're the most important person on the planet, are you one to give empathy to other people? No, because they're less important than you are, correct? Well, so where does the empathy towards other come from? The empathy towards other comes from you thinking less of yourself and more of other people. That's the point of your father. Your father is there to actually tell you, listen up, buddy, you're not as great as you think you are. You need to work harder, you need to stop complaining, you need to look forward. And so let's just imagine you had a child without a mother and only had a father. What kind of person is this person going to grow up into? they're going to grow up into somebody that believes that nobody deeply cares for them. And so they might get all sorts of other psychopathology related to that. The mommy's empathy, that safe place, is really important for children as they become older and grown-ups. But the father's potential empathy is very important to them as well, to think that they're not the most important person in the world and that they need to show empathy to others over themselves. And so here's the deal, by the way. Impulsive empathy is kind of it's almost a comic routine between husband and wife. A lot of sitcoms are based upon it. The wife's always looking for words of affirmation and empathy. Why are you not empathetic enough? Why do you not care? Why are you so harsh? Because her psychology is tied up with impulsive empathy because she has to care for infants. And the husband, whose mind is not tied up in impulsive empathy, is not used to giving it and actually doesn't fully understand it. And so he's always trying to empathize with what she could be. So he's always trying to solve her problems for her. She's like, I don't want my problem solved. I just want you to listen. Well, then why are you wasting my time? I'm a problem solver, you know. And so there you have it. Impulsive empathy, very important for the care of well-being of young children. But it's also something that needs to be opposed by the hard-knock, tough love of a father, because the child, if he has unimposed impulsive empathy, will end up being a narcissist, and nobody likes narcissists. And so the dad serves a very important role in the well-being of a child, and in some ways the father teaches the child empathy of the world, how to realize you're not the most important person in the world and you need to put others in front of yourself. That's what the father's lesson in life is. And young men out there, this is why young men are suffering so hard these days. Putting others before yourself is the definition of being a father. If you can't do that, then you cannot be a good father. That's why you need a dad to smack you in the head and say, you're not that important and you need to toughen up. So this is Catholic Dad, by the way. Just making you think about it. Both mommy and daddy are important. In terms of psychopathology in children, both mommy and daddy are to blame. That's kind of a joke. But no, I think kids, they do better when they have two parents that can help mold them. And then this video is kind of for mommies and daddies too. Because if the mommy can understand that she has impulsive empathy, then maybe she could be more charitable to her husband who doesn't understand that. And if the husband understands he has potential empathy, maybe he can be more charitable to his wife who has impulsive empathy. Because these things are very important to the welfare of children, both of them. And the husband and the wife need to be on the same team. So if they can have some understanding of each other, the world will be a better place. And so this is Catholic Dad making you think about it. God bless, get the Mass, pray the daily rosary, and certainly empathize with your children, but not too much. Take care.